right, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2016, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is a sunny 74 degrees and very pleasant here in upstate New York. See, there's quite the line of thunderstorms headed this direction, so I guess we'll see in a couple hours. So where do we leave off yesterday? We titled the show Prodigy Incident, Biohazard Farming, and that is with a PH, and Keeping You Safe. We discussed a lot of things. We've been on this jaunt for about 4 or 5 weeks now, looking at vaccines, ingredients, GMOs, messing with the immune system, synthetic immune systems, mad science gone mad. Obama selling us to big pharma and using us as the free guinea pigs, among many other things. I think where I want to go today, we really, I don't know, last few days I've just kind of kept going and didn't realize it was the end of the show. It doesn't happen too often. Let's see where we ended this up yesterday. We ended up looking at some of the issues with the FDA and the USDA and the chain of command in regards to GMO foods. No one's really been watching the hen house. You know, like they say, oh, yes, we got rid of making edible vaccines because they could mix with the food supply. But we looked at that Prodigy incident, and there were at least 2 public incidences where they got caught that showed that they were growing these pharmacological vegetables. I think one was a soybean and the other one was corn in open air crops, and they had contaminated other crops, so the crops had to be destroyed. We were envisioning them being destroyed with flamethrowers and white medevac suits, quarantining them. It's pretty disturbing. One of the things that I think would be quite eye-opening, too, what are the percentages of U.S. crops that are GMO? And remember, we don't have any labels that are required to boot. I had said that it was at least 90% of corn in the United States. I was correct. 92% of corn is genetically modified. And when we read that story yesterday about how corn is the one vegetable we know all about, and it's the one that's easiest, and we can put all kinds of vaccines inside of it, and how great that's going to be. But of course, remember, wink, we don't do that anymore. 94% of soybeans are genetically modified. We discussed those yesterday. Also, that incident with the contamination, the Prodigy incident. One incident was with, I lost that. I just lost the one I was looking at with all the percentages. One incident we looked at was with corn. One incident we looked at was with soybeans. And remember, soybeans have estrogen mimickers. That crop that had gotten contaminated potentially of the soybeans was slated for baby formula. And I don't remember what the other thing was, but it was pretty disturbing. They were health-based products. It's early here, and I did not sleep very well last night. I laid awake for a good part of the night, and I don't know, my foot's really hurting me. I don't know what's going on. Feeling all burning like it's on fire. Hope I didn't do nerve damage, too much sitting my ass in the seat doing shows and cutting shows and doing shows. Anyway, 94% of soybeans, 94% of cotton. If we've talked about that in the past as well, you know, baby blankets, underwear, tampons, think about it, washcloths, think about all the cotton things that you use that touch sensitive areas or that touch babies. And I remember when the Indian farmers first came out crying about the GMO cotton, and they had all these wounds all over their bodies, and they were blaming it on the BT in the cotton because it's BT cotton. Like they have BT corn where they splice the pesticide right into the plant itself. So when the bugs eat it, they die. But what happens when that cotton is harvested? That BT is still inside of it. And that cotton's against your body, or in your body, no less. 90% of all canola is GMO, 95% of sugar beets. And sugar beets are one of the sugar alternatives that they are using in many, 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 many things. I thought sugar beets are supposed to be the quote-unquote all-natural solution to high fructose corn syrup, which, by the way, is genetically modified corn. And then they also give squash, which we talked about, yellow squash and zucchini, papaya and alfalfa, and there are no percentages there. So how disturbing is that? Good part of our corn, mostly all of our soybeans, good majority of our cotton, our sugar beets, our canola are all GMO. The soil is contaminated and will be for generations to come. What have we done? So how do we get that genie back? Well, here's food for thought. As we've established that eating genetically modified foods that are laden with things such as glyphosate, it damages our gut bacteria because glyphosate is a potent antibiotic. And even if it isn't laden with glyphosate, how about some of the BT products, like I said, that have pesticides spliced into them, and you're going to ingest that? We've seen a lot of the studies from Dr. Huber and some of the genetically modified alfalfa and what it was doing to the livestock and the farm animals. And they had all kinds of stillbirth abortions and marked reductions in fertility. Well, food for thought. Gut bacteria may influence how the mind works and affecting your mood and behavior. And we've done many stories on this before, but I want to start getting back into now tying this back to this evil agenda. Remember, we are all resistant consumers. They know now who the ones are who are thinkers, who are standing up saying, no, no, no. We're not going to eat that crap. We happen to be the same ones who are probably gun-loving, freedom-loving America. It means you have a mental disorder. Now, when we saw that Billy Gates was investing in that Synologics, which is that living therapeutics synthetic gut bacteria company out of MIT, it's a brand new spin out. We've read about them a whole bunch of times. We found out that, yes, with this federal microbiome project, they are looking at cracking the keys on how to control brain chemicals and how to manipulate the brain directly through the gut. Well, when you start looking at the 20 to 30 years of research that they've been doing with pharmaceutical growing in your food and watching what happens when you ingest that food, and remember that the gut and the small intestine, your mucosal lining, is a great way to get these things across that blood barrier, get it into your system so it can do its work. The other way is inhalation through the nose. Another mucosal lining. You need to realize that this is a very nefarious plan. We also have Tommy Insel, the former director of the National Institute of Mental Health as of October, who's now gone over to Google Verily Life Sciences Division to work on, yes, curing mental health initiatives. And Google, of course, is fully in bed with the federal government. They've been butt-patting and back-rubbing, man-loving. Trust me on this one. All the tech boys are in there. They've all been at the White House. The day we first saw them in July 2015, all sitting down at a big table at the White House, I was like, what? I've been in the tech industry for a lot of years. You The techs were the rebels. They didn't go to the White House. They didn't go sit down at a table with the president to discuss how we're going to help protect national security infrastructure and work hand in hand with the alphabet agencies. No, that is not what tech companies were all about. We were the rebels. Well, it doesn't look like it anymore. The tech industry has been sucked right into the machine. And anyone still working in it is doing the work now of the brown shirts. You're going to help identify those who are resistant consumers. You're going to help identify those with quote unquote mental disorders based upon their voice patterns, their search patterns, their topics that they're viewing. They're going to splice and dice everyone and put you into the database and then set their AI to identify, search, and destroy. I just saw there was some robot that got away from, where was it? Jake Anderson from Anti-Media. He shows up on Nick's show a lot on Monday and Wednesdays. Jake, I gotta say hi to Jake one of these days. Jake and I seem to have a lot in common as far as our interests. Jake tends to write stories on high tech gone awry. Just a nice way to put mad science gone mad. But Jake did a story yesterday. Self-learning robot escapes testing ground and goes missing for 45 minutes. Yes, it did. Seems like almost... Here, we'll read this one. I need to do something different for a few minutes. Seems like almost every day now we hear some strange story about a robot. And yes, Jake, especially if you subscribe to my Before the First Cup page or Twitter feed. From the Microsoft Twitter bot going full Nazi. Remember Tay? That was hysterically funny. In 24 hours, to Google's AI digesting romance novels and regurgitating them. And we didn't do that story, but I read that Google AI romance novel on the fly. And I have to tell you, I sat there with my eyes and my mouth wide open because it was just the strangest, bizarrest twist of reality from almost like a nightmarish perspective. It felt like you were in a really bad dream and the room was moving around while I was reading this because it was just so twisted and bizarre. And I was trying to do like that psychology thing I do when I'm assessing individuals. Because, in all these years, I started out getting an English degree, and after you write 10,000 papers and look at psychological motivations in 1,000 novels and great classic works such as Milton's Paradise Lost and Chaucer's Canterbury Tales and Shakespeare's full unedited collected works, I've been an avid reader and a brain picker for my entire life, just about. I like to pick brains. I like to understand motivations, what makes people tick, because that helps me understand the keys. There's a lot of keys to this universe, and one of my things is to figure it all out. For no other reason except that before I get, as my dad would say, one foot on a banana peel. I don't know. I got one foot on a banana. I don't know what is going on. My toes are like burning, like they're on fire, burning. Just hoping I don't have like some sort of circulation issue from too much sitting. Because guess what, guys? I'm going to have to fix that. That's going to have to come first before this crap. But before I have one foot on a banana peel, I just want to know what makes everything tick. What is the purpose? Why are we here? Why all of this complete insanity that we live every day? Like, what is the point? I hate wasting time, and I think maybe that's why I need to understand whether or not it is beneficial for me to be even spending my time spinning my wheels, doing whatever. So anyway, motivations are a big thing for me. And they help you in a lot of walks in life. I mean, in business, absolutely, especially when you were dealing with CEOs, CTOs, COOs all the time, trying to convince them to cut you a nice big fat check to install the network you just configured for them. Also in social groups, I've belonged to a lot of different interesting groups with interesting people. And everybody's very different, but I tend to like to get along with people. I don't know if you got me on a bad day, I might be really argumentative. Yes, I do that really well. But it probably doesn't get you very far in life to have a chip on your shoulder and argue with everybody all the time, or to be Debbie Downer all the time. Only my friends get that benefit from me. Because I probably am the Debbie Downer of them all. But to understand psychological motivations is really important. So when I started reading this Google AI writing a romance novel based upon some input, and it was supposed to be on the fly. Maybe I'll drop that in the notes. Maybe you can do that tomorrow. That'd be a good Friday one. I was very disturbed. So they now have AI doing art, doing music, writing stories, and you know that they are looking. I thought we had done a story at one point about them already having sports writers being some sort of automated AI. I mean, I know we can do it just with some of our little simple tools that we built here, being able to pull information from one area and from another and put them all into a sentence and have them posted at a certain time. We're doing that for the show announcements for UCY on Facebook. The show announcements that push out, that's all automated. That grabs chunks of data out of different tables in the database and then, just adds the little conjunctives like in, on, when, next, new. And there you go. Bang. I don't have to type any of that by hand anymore. And it does it 24/7 without my intervention. Anyway, so we have, yes, Tay, Microsoft's Twitter bot going full Nazi in 24 hours, to Google's AI digesting romance novels and regurgitating them as postmodern poetry. And it was a little poetic, and they even made a movie about it. There was a director that took that romance and fed all of the verbiage into it and then had it create a screenplay. And then they got a bunch of actors together. And those actors then recreated what Google spit out. And it was just beyond bizarre. I don't want anything like that making decisions for me, because that's what it's coming down to. It's going to start making decisions on how the world runs and on how all of these automated Internet of Things devices that are getting connected every day interact. There was another story that came out yesterday of the inventor of Android. I think his last name was Rubin. Yes, Andy Rubin. He came out at the Bloomberg Tech Conference in San Francisco yesterday saying that AI could one day very well control every device on the planet. And I don't think that that's too much of a stretch, to be completely honest with you. We're at a pretty good point right now, and going at the current clip, the way technology is evolving every day, I don't think that this is a pipe dream at all. Anyway, let's read this first story before I get too way off the mark. We are witnessing, so this is the one from Jake Anderson, Antimedia. We are witnessing the overlapping pubescent evolutions of both algorithmic artificial intelligence and social media. And the result is a daily dose of discomforting news. And absolutely, before the first cup feed, make sure you get it. I'll get your panties in a twist so you won't be able to sleep tonight. It's not, and that isn't my point, but I need people to understand how dangerous this is. People still go, technology, it's going to be another 100 years. Even people in the industry are still saying that, but it's because it's the dangling carrot. That's what they're telling them. These people are not looking at where technology took a right turn, and that was into biology. And that's where really we've been focusing a lot of our time, is this intersection now between technology and biology. That's where the danger is. They are building programming languages to be able to program cells just like code. And now I saw a story yesterday, and honestly, it was really late, so I never finished reading it. But there's been a project going on since the 70s, and I guess it's been revived, and now there's a programming language to be able to take computers and program them like cells, to turn a whole bunch of computers into cells in a large organism. And that is a lot of like what cluster computing is about. I mean, we used to do cluster computing back in the late 90s, and that was pre-cloud, but it was the beginnings of cloud, where you could layer across multiple machines in diverse geological locations and get them with a heartbeat link so they all knew where each other was and whether or not each other was online and what they were working on. And you could share physical resources on that machine. Cluster computing, it would be CPU on demand. It could load balance. It was a good way for redundancy. So if you lost a machine, the others could take over. It was the pre-world before the cloud. Anyway, it's not just limited to algorithms. Actual robots have been increasing in the news, and whether it's a robot horse trekking across remote terrain, I think that's DARPA's one. DARPA's drone children being prepared for war, yes, are the ones in the belly of the new aquatic submarine, like a million baby spiders waiting to be released. Or a worker bot being abused in a factory. Yeah, well, that was the DARPA bot that was picking and packing. An age of automated minions is upon us. And for all the stories, however, it is somewhat rare that we hear of one of these robots escaping. But that is exactly what happened in Perm, a city near Urals in Russia, where an early self-learning version of the Promobot escaped its testing area and tied up traffic. According to its co-founder, Oleg Kutsevleg, the robot was learning automatic movement algorithms on the testing ground, and these functions will feature in the latest version of the Promobot. And while some have questioned whether the escape was actually a PR stunt, and it could have been, which is quite literally a promotional robot that hosts and provides information. So that is what he is. He's a Promobot. He was missing for 45 minutes before his battery died. Our engineers drove it onto the testing ground and forgot to close the gates. So the robot escaped and went on his little adventure. And I know that was a cutesy story to kick it all off, but listen, guys. Automation and robotics are coming, and it is coming at a global scale very quickly. We read about South Korea. They are pumping out millions of automation robots for factories. We just saw a story. They displaced 60,000 Chinese workers just recently with robots built in Samsung's factory out of South Korea. And that is just the beginning. That's what we need to keep realizing, is that these insane stories we cover here every day, this isn't like, we're down the line in artificial intelligence 50 years, because we're not. This is just the beginning. And if they're already making leaps and bounds like this now, what is it going to be like in 10 years from now? I've only been doing this show for 4 years, and look at the horror that's happened in 4 years. Stuff I was postulating about 4 years ago is up front in your face and has already happened. This Internet of Things and wearable computing, the Project Jacquard, the partnership between Google and Levi's, biosensors, precision medicine, bagging, tagging, and tracking, getting 1 million Americans to step right up, put themselves into the database for them to bag, tag, and track you at every moment of the day. We have all these in the field now. Diagnostic testing that they can do, they're experimenting with. It's going to be a brave new world very quickly. And people are going to embrace this like it's this newfangled, wonderful technology that's going to keep you safe from terrorists, keep you safe from disease, keep you safe from cancer. We have some new shape-shifting cancer vaccine as well. And the Internet of Things is going to become the grid that enslaves you, and they're going to sell it to you that it's keeping you safe. It's all for your own good, Johnny. You need to have your little social robot that keeps you happy and healthy and keeps its eye on you, reads you bedtime stories. You could talk to it when you have trouble with your parents. It'll be your only friends. And eventually, it's going to be your Google contact lenses. Did you see they have the camera lenses? I saw Samsung has a video lenses. They got infrared lenses. Google released their diabetic lenses where they could take your blood sugar and give you medication through the eyeball. And don't forget, the eyeball is connected directly via the optic nerve to the brain. Even though studies just again verified that there's a big potential for cancer with cell phones against your head, and they did. I mean, they put the kibosh on that study for a long time, and now there's new studies coming out going, oh, yeah, the study from 15, 20 years ago that warned about putting cell phones against your head might have been right. Well, as this is all coming out, we got Google launching loon balloons, 5G wavelengths. We got drone internet from Facebook. We got wearable computing from DARPA, Google, Levi's, Under Armour, IBM. It's insanity. What is that going to do to us at a cellular level? Well, don't worry about it, because Google is working on its nanobots in your blood, and Microsoft is working on the symbiotics, the synthetic biotics for your gut to repair you every time it finds a problem. All right, let's get to this story about Internet of Things. A conscious AI could one day control every device on the planet, predicts Android inventor Andy Rubin, and he should know. Android is a part of Google. Android wearable operating system is what they're putting into the Jacquard clothing, the Google DARPA Levi's project. Artificial intelligence can now cook you a meal, chat to you on your phone, yeah, and be a Taybot. Beat you in a game of rock, paper, scissors, as well as the game of Go. And Andy Rubin, who co-founded Android, believes that AI in the future will go one step further, being so powerful that it underpins every connected device. And remember, Elon Musk, the man in the know, says that we are going to be their pets someday. And I wouldn't doubt that. Mr. Rubin said that a combination of quantum computing and AI advancements could yield a conscious intelligence that would control every internet-enabled gadget. And yeah, one of the big things that we had read in a few papers a while back is that really what AI is lacking right now are senses. And they were working on VPUs, which would be the vision sensors to give AI eyes. Biosensors are going to give them taste and smell. We already have prosthetics that we've been using on soldiers coming back from the battlefield that are injured with brain implants. That we have skin on these prosthetic devices that can literally touch and feel. It's not going to be too long. Speaking at Bloomberg's tech conference in San Francisco, Mr. Rubin said, if you have computing that is as powerful as this could be, you might only need one. And it might not be something you carry around. It just has to be conscious. And while Mr. Rubin claims our currently theoretical is investment fund, he's another rich guy with a big investment fund called Playground Global, is investing $300 million in companies trying to make this future of AI a reality. What is with these lunatics? Why are these people financing the end of the human race as we know it? You know, we just saw Autodesk, the makers of AutoCAD, the other day, putting in $240 million, the first venture capital funding, to fund the creation of the synthetic human genome. You know, we see Google with their life sciences division and all their mad science going on. And I mean, look into them. Look into the whole of Alphabet. This is pretty frightening. We have Microsoft that's into longevity medicine. We have Amazon Bezos is into his rocketry and drone delivery and owning the Washington Post. And, I'm sure that he's involved in probably some sort of live forever tech. One of the companies his fund is investing in is in a quantum computing firm that's name has not yet been disclosed. And the company is made up of researchers who may one day be able to commercialize quantum devices using standard manufacturing processes, which could massively boost its processing power. Mr. Rubin said that in order for AI to blossom and fulfill customer needs, it has to be all about data. Right. Got to have you all in the database first, though, for it to know how to interact with you. And that's where robotics come in. Robots are walking mobile sensors who can sense their environment and interact and learn from those interactions. Mr. Rubin believes that both artificial intelligence and quantum computing are good pattern matching and great complements to each other. And he added that those two things combined in 100 years might get us to that point of a conundrum as to who is the master and who is the servant. So why are we doing this is my question. Why are we doing this? If we're pretty sure that we're going to be in the place of a servant as this grand, more intelligent, what are you going to call it? It's life. Synthetic life takes over. Let's look traditionally all throughout history what happens when more advanced civilizations come into contact with less advanced civilizations. Well, usually doesn't end up too well for the ones being conquered. While the idea of having robots as our masters is daunting, Mr. Rubin made sure to ground his ideas in more reasonable concerns like encryption. Yeah, let's deflect the question. He says, if you think about quantum computing without AI, and if you think about how that new type of architecture could eliminate all forms of encryption that we have today, you have different problems then. You shouldn't be worrying about Skynet coming online. No, don't worry about it. I told you. That's what they say every time. It's possible, yeah. And you know what? They're probably going to enslave us, yeah. And you know what? Robots going to take all the jobs, yeah. But don't worry about it, Johnny. Don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it all. It'll be all fixed. Don't worry about it. And you know what's not going to happen for a long time? Any of us that have children, grandchildren, any of us who care about life on Earth or what we helped to be a part of or our legacy that's going to be left on this planet should be worrying about it. This is not what we want for the future of the human race. We shouldn't be worrying about Skynet coming online. He says you should be worrying about what it means to compute at quantum magnitudes. No, Johnny. I don't want to worry about what it is to compute at quantum levels. Screw the quantum. There's some pretty great stuff that they're working on, like making light and matter live in the same place. I just posted a story about that last night. Makes your mind want to twist sideways because it's so mind-bending. Here's an AI dash cam app that wants to rate every driver in the world, and I will guarantee you that is probably a built-in license plate scanner as well, and you'll be doing the work of the brown shirts. See, remember, all of this technology, once you start automating things, it offloads a lot of the drudgery that came along with trying to bag, tag, and track by hand. And it makes your databases get bigger. And as you add more to the database, it gives you more and more intelligence. And as you get more and more intelligence, then you can gather intelligence by looking at connected events. Every AI dashcam app that wants to rate every driver in the world. If you've been out on the streets of Silicon Valley or New York City in the past 9 months, there's a good chance that your bad driving habits have already been profiled by a new project called Nexar, Nexar. Again, a U.S. Israeli startup. Remember, there's all kinds of collaboration going on with our little friends sitting in the middle of the Middle East. This U.S. Israeli startup is aiming to build what it calls an air traffic control system for driving, and has just raised an extra $10.5 million in venture capitalist funding. Since Nexar launched its dashcam app last year, smartphones running it have captured, analyzed, and recorded over 5 million miles of driving in San Francisco, New York, and Tel Aviv. And the company's algorithms have now automatically profiled the driving behavior of over 7 million cars. Now, this profiling and this behavior is something that I really want to look at. And this is why this gut bacteria connection is very important. Tommy Insel being at Google's Verily Life Sciences from being the director of the National Institute of Mental Health, guys. This is the next step. This is where they're going to take us. We are going to be profiled behaviorally, and then we're going to be modified. I guarantee that one. Johnny, don't worry. This isn't going to hurt. Just eat your carrot that the Israelis developed that makes your medicine. It'll make you all better. If a car speeds past or performs an illegal maneuver like running a red light, that information is added to a profile in Nexar's online database. And when another Nexar user's phone later detects that same vehicle, it could then flash you a warning to give it a wide berth. And this feature goes live later this year. Lior Strelhitzovitz, a law professor at the University of Chicago, proposed a similar, if low-tech, reputation system for drivers a decade ago. I think it's a creative and sensible way to help improve the driving experience, he says, and there are a lot of legal impediments in the United States to what Nexar is doing. Oh, there aren't a lot of legal impediments, nor should there be. No. You know, this is going to make RoboCop real easy, that you know that they already are profiling every single one of us. For the Department of Homeland Security, they pull you up a little card when law enforcement pulls you up, and it gives you a red, green, or yellow light as to whether or not you are a danger before they ever even get to your car. Well, now they'll be able to profile your driving habits based upon probably license plate, I would assume. Says there aren't a lot of legal impediments in the United States to what Nexar is doing, nor should there be, he says Iran Shear, Nexar's co-founder. And if you're driving next to me and you're a dangerous driver, I want to know about it so I can be prepared. Nexar estimates that if 1% of drivers would use this app daily and step right up, be a brown shirt, it would just take 1 month to profile 99% of all of a city's vehicles. We think that this is a service to the community to be able to know whether or not a driver is crazy. Now, again, step right up, give your information to the machine. Share it all in the name of being helpful, of helping others, reporting on others, putting it in the database to add to the science that then we can use against everyone eventually. That community includes, and these are the ones who want to know all about it, insurance companies who Nexar suggests could save billions by cherry-picking only the best drivers to cover. And Nexar has also calculated that companies using its universal driving score could save up to $125 each year on a policy. Drivers benefit as well from video and sensor footage stored in the cloud that they can then use to support their side of the story following an accident. And remember, too, we talked about that road rage camera there is a camera that they can mount right on your dashboard that can read your emotions and tell whether or not you start to experience road rage. And at that point, with an autonomous car, the autonomous car can say, "Hey, Johnny, we see that your blood pressure is going up and your facial expressions are showing you're getting frustrated. So we are going to take control of the car for a little while to ensure that you do not experience road rage while driving." Anyway, Shear, it's a scientist here, hopes that Nexar would also reduce traffic fatalities. Of course, it's all about keeping you safe long before self-driving cars become mainstream. The app can highlight treacherous intersections or detect a car braking sharply and sends an alert to users several cars back or even around a corner. And this needs to be a real-time network, says Shear. We have optimized a way that cars communicate so that the latency is very low, only about 100 to 150 milliseconds. And such targeted warnings require much more precise geolocation than offered by normal GPSs. Yeah, GPS isn't good enough to tell where you are so we could drop a drone bomb on you. No, we need more accurate geolocation. Nexar's app fuses data from multiple sensors in the smartphone. The accelerometer senses potholes and speed bumps, while the magnetometer used for compass settings detects when the car is traveling under power lines. And we use these refreshing 50 times a second to crowdsource features of the road and pinpoint where you are within just 2 meters. That's like 6 feet. 6 feet. A side benefit, of course, isn't that we're surveilling you? No. Side benefit, of course, is that the company has built detailed maps of road surface quality in its pilot cities. Yeah, we can tell you where the potholes are. That's the benefit to you, Johnny. You'll be able to avoid potholes. Shear thinks that Nexar can help drivers realize the vision of smart, connected highways. We are going into a hybrid world where autonomous vehicles and humans will start sharing the road. And we won't be able to shout at each other or ask someone to move and flip them the bird. We now need a network that will manage our roads as a scarce resource, he says. And for the past decade, the automotive industry has been struggling to implement dedicated short-range communications, which is a messaging system that lets cars transmit its location, speed, and direction to nearby vehicles and infrastructure. Shear thinks that apps like Nexar could leapfrog the billions of dollars and decades of rollout time that such a system would likely demand. Leave it to Israel. Dedicated short-range communications is dead in the water, he says, and instead of sharing information about a single vehicle, where you need a density of equipped vehicles of 10 to 20% to become effective, you can share that information of all of the vehicles around you and start with 1%, and it is a massive force multiplier. You know what's interesting, too? We just recruited Toyota and brought their AI automotive division to a new location in California. And we have good old Gil Pratt, who was the head of the robotics challenge at DARPA, who's going to be headlining that new AI robotics division for Toyota. They opened another facility in Maryland, very near lots of the federal alphabet agencies, as well as a pilot project in Detroit, of course, where we have the heart of the car industry. Traditionally, don't think it's going to be too much of a long time before my last bastion of freedom, which is driving on the free and open roads, are going to be a memory. Although ranking the driving performance of every vehicle in the United States sounds legally dubious, Lior Stratzovitz says that it is probably legal. And who cares about that? You know they don't care about that. They have all kinds of lobbyists in Washington right now for the car industry and the self-driving car companies trying to get all the laws changed to be able to enable self-driving vehicles as well as surveillance on those. He says, quote, courts generally say that people generally have little or no expectation of privacy. Gotta love that. In the movements of their cars on public roads, as long as cars aren't being tracked everywhere they go for a lengthy period of time. No. So let's just distribute that across a million different cars that are all tracking so you can go from one car to the next, and then they map it all, and bang. It's just like your cell phone metadata. No, we're not tracking you. We're not tracking you at all. It's just your metadata until they show how much that metadata can actually show about you. Nevertheless, Nexar will face some ethical dilemmas. For example, should the app inform users when it spots a license plate that is the subject of an Amber Alert? Well, I mean, in that one case, I might say yeah, but just remember the whole FBI National Amber Alert system is tied to the electronic billboards on the sides of all the major highways in the United States. And we talked about that a long time ago. I don't have anything against the Amber Alert system, especially if it really is a missing traffic child. But on the other hand, let's think about what those connected, networked electronic billboards along the sides of highways could also portray. Well, I don't know, Running Man, 8,000 megapixel Argus drone cameras running after you at high speed, broadcasting wanted with facial recognition software to every billboard across the nation or within a geolocation. It's a pretty frightening thought. So should they be able to alert users when it spots a license plate that is subject of an Amber Alert, or contact law enforcement directly if the algorithm suggests an erratically moving car is being operated by an intoxicated driver, perhaps? Although Scheer says that Nexar is not interested in generating more traffic ticket revenues for cities or becoming the long arm of the FBI. That's what he said. He admits that law enforcement could subpoena its raw footage and its sensor data if it hasn't already gotten into bed with them. Remember, it's Israel. New York City has, the NYPD has its own police department office right in the heart of Tel Aviv. Ultimately, Nexar might succeed because drivers are constantly being rated whether or not they are running the app themselves, and if it's algorithms that are judging you anyway. And I said this yesterday, don't worry about it. They don't have feelings. You might not want to be the only one in the dark about that accident-prone pickup in the next lane. I don't know what to say, guys. I mean, automation is coming, and they keep telling us not to worry about it, Johnny. But we even have Walmart. Yes, Walmart. Walmart just announced automated shopping carts. Walmart's robotic shopping carts are the latest sign that automation is eating commerce. The biggest retailer in the U.S., Walmart, is now experimenting with robotic shopping carts. And the company has yet to release any details of how the robo-carts work. But the news highlights how rapidly automation is moving into shopping and warehouse fulfillment. And it also shows how keen Walmart is to embrace all this technology that might help us counter the shift toward online shopping and faster product delivery. Just a few weeks ago, Walmart also said that it was testing whether delivery drones could help check inventory in its stores. Robots have popped up a few times in a few stores, mostly serving as experimental automated helpers behind the scenes. However, automation is rapidly taking hold at large retailers. Walmart's archenemy, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, has led the way by introducing automation to its fulfillment centers, using robots that ferry shelves stocked with product between stackers and pickers. The space is becoming more crowded by the day, and other companies are developing robots capable of assisting with warehouse work in much more sophisticated ways. In fact, there was an event last week in which several other companies demonstrated other robotic warehouse helpers. Next Shift Robotics, for example, showed a new system that can retrieve bins from shelves after workers have filled them with items. And I mean, how long is it going to be before just the robots fill the bins? There won't be workers, people. We already saw with that Baxter robot at MIT. They had written a story in the MIT Technology Review where Baxter is going to have cloud learning. So we can have a Baxter robot here in New York and another Baxter robot in Beijing. And I could be teaching the Baxter robot how to do a special pick and pack movement in my factory here. And when Baxter learns it, he uploads his learning. So any other Baxter robots connected to that cloud learning can download that application and have a new skill instantly. Another company, Locus Robotics, offers robots that can quickly be trained to move goods around a warehouse or a factory. And all of which is to say that while robot shopping carts may sound a little unnecessary, it makes a lot of sense for Walmart to try to understand how automation may disrupt its business just as much as e-commerce has. And remember, these are all very disruptive technologies. All these technologies are going to disrupt your daily life. It's going to disrupt the world as we know it. It's going to turn the world on its head and make us slaves to technology. And we talked about Autodesk. There was a new story about them as well. Autodesk, the company who puts out AutoCAD. Any of us engineers out there have used AutoCAD? Quite fond of it. I liked it. I used to love doing my engineering drawings. It was probably the most favorite part of my job, actually, was doing the creative part. Autodesk is in the news again. This is out of TechCrunch from a couple days ago. Autodesk looks to the future with investments in 3D robotic drones and the Internet of Things as a service. What? Yeah, all these tech companies are just dumping bazillions of dollars into forwarding this agenda where technology is literally going to take over. There's not going to be a lot left for you and me. There is not going to be a lot left to do. Not going to be a lot of jobs left. There's not going to be a lot of anything once technology completely is running the show. When you think of Autodesk, you probably think of desktop software and traditional manufacturing. But this company is trying hard to change that perception. And yeah, being the first venture capital firm into the synthetic genome at MIT, the synthetic human genome, mind you, is really trying to change perception. And today it announced the first of 3 investments from its $100 million Forge Fund, which includes 3D robotic drones companies, an on-demand machine shop service, which is kind of cool, and a platform for building smart, connected Internet of Things devices. Autodesk, which was founded in 1982, has been looking for ways to shake things up, and one way was launching the cloud-based Forge development platform at the end of last year, along with a $100 million fund to encourage companies to start building interesting applications on top of it. This week, the company is holding its first developer conference called Forge DevCon. And these 3 companies certainly represent a sharp departure from your run-of-the-mill 1980s CAD software. Each company, 3D Robotics, MakeTime, and Cibo, so I guess those are the names they gave them, have existed for some time. In fact, 3DR has been around since 2009 and has collected more than $126 million in funding. And while Autodesk will not say how much they were investing in these companies, and believe me, I asked, and it wasn't me, it was the guy who wrote this story, These companies all had something in common, and that is that they all built new functionality on top of their Forge platform. The platform is an evolving series of APIs giving developers like these three companies access to a set of Autodesk services. And yes, those services then you can build into your product, very much like Under Armour partnering with IBM so they can make smart underwear. Yeah, they're doing all kinds of stuff using APIs, application programming interfaces. MakeTime runs a service that matches projects to machine shops with downtime, and this requires transferring plans in a variety of formats, and they use a variety of Autodesk API toolsets to make that very thing happen. Cibo is a software as a service that provides a way for designers to easily add components like sensors, GPSs, or accelerometers so they can bag, tag, and track you wherever you go. To design to make any product a connected device. Gotta love Internet of Things. If these companies and others aren't enough to lure more developers to the platform, Autodesk is also offering free access to its platform APIs and unlimited consumption for 90 days after their conference, which is a pretty generous offer. After that, pricing is going to be $400 a month. And while all this certainly is a wow factor, the underlying motivation is really about encouraging companies to use the platform ultimately to help propel Autodesk into the future of making things for the Internet of Things. The company certainly understands that it cannot live in the 20th century world forever. And programs like this and Project Escher, a creative approach to improving 3D manufacturing, are designed to help the company remain relevant in, yes, this changing, very scary world. All right, guys, if you can even believe it, headline for tomorrow: 4-year-olds should be learning about robots at school, say experts. And yeah, teaching little Johnny in the National Geographic. All right, guys, make sure you stick around. Mr. Kevin Planch is live up next. It is Thursday. All kinds of great radio tonight. We have Ron live at 7. Hell's replay.